Isn't it strange how a person can wake up every morning, walk the same path, speak the same words, live the same routine, and yet deep down know they're living the wrong life? You see, there's something in all of us, a quiet intelligence, a restless spirit that refuses to be satisfied with mediocrity. And yet, most people don't change. Not because they can't, but because they've traded their possibility for predictability. But let me tell you something powerful. You are not the same person you were yesterday, which means today, if you choose, you can start a completely new life. Not by erasing your past, but by deciding your future. So the question is not, can I change? The question is, am I finally willing to? And if the answer is ye, then let's begin. I remember the day I finally understood that everything we see, every building, every business, every success was once invisible. It began as an idea, a quiet image in someone's mind, long before it ever showed up in the real world. That was a turning point for me. I used to think life just happened. Some people got lucky, others didn't. But then I realized that life isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. And the blueprint always starts in the mind. You see, a new life doesn't start with a job change, or a move to a new city, or a shiny goal on a vision board. No, it starts the moment you begin to imagine a different future with clarity and intention. Without that mental blueprint, you're like a builder with no plan, just stacking bricks without a direction. The great architect of your future is your imagination guided by belief. When I was broke and frustrated, I didn't start by chasing money. I started by picturing what wealth looked like for me, not just in my bank account, but in my daily routine, my relationships, my peace of mind. I imagined walking into a room with confidence, making decisions with clarity, and having the discipline to follow through. That was the first creation. The second came later through effort, discipline, and opportunity, but it never would have happened without that first internal vision. Even the farmer knows this principle. He doesn't wait to see a harvest before planting the seed. He plants it first, waters it, nurtures it, and trusts the process. Your life is the same. What you plant in your mind, with enough care and belief, begins to take root in your reality. The problem is, most people keep planting the same seeds. Seeds of doubt, fear, limitation, and wonder why the crop never changes. Change the seed, change the harvest. You must learn to live in your vision, not your memory. Because if you can see the new life clearly enough, long enough, and act on it consistently, it has no choice but to come true. There comes a moment in every life when you've got to stop pacing the edge of the pool and jump in. You can study, plan, hope, and even complain, but nothing changes until you decide it must. That's the doorway. Not talent, not timing, not luck, decision, asterisk, one bold, serious, no turning back kind of decision. And not the kind you whisper to yourself late at night and forget by morning. I'm talking about the kind that reshapes your habits, rearranges your priorities, and makes your old life too small to fit into anymore. I remember sitting in a small, beat-up apartment years ago, broke, behind on my promises, and ashamed of what I'd let myself become. I wanted change. I talked about change. But the truth was I hadn't decided yet. I hadn't drawn the line. Then one day, the embarrassment of staying the same finally outweighed the fear of changing. That was it. I stood up, looked myself in the mirror, and said, asterisk, never again. Asterisk. That decision didn't change everything overnight, but it changed me asterisk. And when you change, everything around you eventually follows. You see, decision creates motion. It's like lighting a fuse. The clearer and stronger the decision, the faster things begin to shift. Not because the world changes, but because you do. Your decisions tell the world what you will and will not tolerate anymore. They set the tone for your future. The man who decides to take control of his finances starts saying no to impulse spending and yes to discipline. The woman who decides to start her own business starts showing up differently, more focused, more intentional, more alive. But indecision? That's the thief of opportunity. It lets years slip by in the comfort of delay. And I'll tell you, life will always give you a reason to wait. Wait until you're ready. End quote. What? Indecision. Wait until it's easier. Wait until someone else believes in you. But here's the secret. Asterisk. You'll never feel fully ready. Asterisk. You decide anyway. The life you want is on the other side of a firm decision. Not a wish, not a maybe, a decision. One that says, asterisk. This ends now, and that begins today. Asterisk. Comfort is a seductive thing. It wraps around you like a warm blanket, familiar, safe, predictable. But here's the trap. Comfort has never built a fortune, never sparked a breakthrough, never transformed a life. It only maintains what already is. And if you're serious about starting a new life, you've got to come to terms with this truth. Growth and comfort cannot ride the same horse. Asterisk. Asterisk. I used to confuse comfort with success. I thought once I got a steady paycheck, a roof over my head, and a routine that didn't rock the boat, I had made it. But something inside me kept whispering, asterisk, this isn't it. There's more. Asterisk. That whisper, friend, is the seed of potential pushing against the walls of your current life. And if you ignore it long enough, it turns into frustration, then regret. Now, it's easy to stay in a rut, especially when the rut feels like a groove. You know the route to work. You know the shows you'll watch. You know the excuses you'll make. You don't have to think. But growth demands that you think, stretch, fail, adjust, and keep going. It demands that you put yourself in situations where you're not the smartest, not the fastest, not the most prepared, but you're there to become those things. I'll never forget when I first began speaking. I was terrified. My voice trembled. My palms sweat. But I knew if I wanted to grow into the man I imagined, I had to walk into that fear and make it my training ground. You don't grow by staying safe. You grow by challenging yourself on purpose. Asterisk. The old philosophers had it right. Heraclitus said, asterisk. Character is destiny. Asterisk. And character is built in discomfort. Every time you choose growth over ease, discipline over laziness, courage over fear, you become stronger. You become sharper. And eventually that new strength becomes your new comfort zone until you outgrow it again. So if you're feeling uncomfortable right now, good. It means you're reaching. And reaching is where the new life begins. One of the most powerful lessons I ever learned is this. If you want to change your life, change who you're around. The environment you live in, the people you talk to, the conversations you engage in, these things are not neutral. They are shaping you, molding your beliefs, influencing your habits, and either pulling you forward or holding you back. The human mind is like fertile soil. It doesn't care what you plant. it will return whatever you feed it. And the people around you are constantly planting seeds. I remember a time when I was surrounded by people who made excuses. Everyone I talked to had a reason why they couldn't succeed. Too young, too old, not enough time, not the right background. And without realizing it, I started speaking the same language. Not because I believed it, but because it was familiar. That's the danger. If you hear it enough, you start to live it. Then I got around a man who didn't make excuses. He talked different. He thought different. And after spending time with him, I started to change not just my words, but my standards. If you're serious about starting a new life, look closely at who's around you. Are they building or breaking your belief? Do they challenge you to grow or pull you back into old patterns? The people in your circle are either mirrors of your past or windows to your future. Choose wisely. Now, I'm not saying cut everyone off. I'm saying be intentional. Seek out people who are growing, striving, learning, people who talk about ideas, not just people. People who invest in themselves and push you to do the same. It's better to walk alone on the path of progress than to stand still in a crowd going nowhere. Even your physical environment matters. Clean your space. Create order where you live and work. A cluttered room reflects a cluttered mind. Your surroundings should remind you of where you're headed, not where you've been. You don't rise above your environment, you rise with it. So build one that matches the life you're determined to create. If you want to start a new life, you must begin by changing the way you see yourself. Because here's the truth. You can never consistently perform in a manner that is inconsistent with how you view yourself. If deep down you believe you're average, you'll find a way to bring yourself back to average no matter how much success you touch. And if you believe you're capable, worthy, and meant for more, you'll rise even in the face of setbacks. There was a time I saw myself as a failure. I wouldn't have said it out loud, but I felt it every time I missed a goal, every time I let someone down, every time I gave in to procrastination. I dressed like it. I spoke like it. I walked like it. And the results around me matched that internal picture perfectly. You see, life doesn't just respond to what you do, it responds to who you believe you are. One day, I stood in front of the mirror, and I didn't like what I saw. Not the reflection, but the posture, the spirit. I looked like a man who was surviving, not thriving. And I said, this isn't who I was born to be. That was the beginning of the new life. I didn't just start acting differently, I started thinking differently about myself. I imagined the man I wanted to become, confident, disciplined, generous, respected. And then I started asking myself daily, what would that man do today? One day at a time, I became him. Even the old Stoics understood this. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by things, but by our perception of things. And nowhere is that more true than in the way we perceive ourselves. Walk like the person you want to become. Speak like them. Dress like them. Think like them. Because the moment you begin to see yourself differently, the world begins to treat you differently too. What you speak, especially to yourself, carries more power than most people ever realize. Words are not just sounds, they're seeds. And like any seed, once planted and watered, they grow. So if you're planting words of doubt, limitation, fear, or failure, don't be surprised when your life becomes a garden of frustration. But if you start sowing words of strength, belief, discipline, and vision, your future begins to change first in spirit, then in form. I remember a season in my life when I was speaking defeat over myself without even knowing it. I'd say things like, asterisk. I could never do that. Asterisk or asterisk. I'm not that kind of person. Asterisk or asterisk. That's just not for people like me. Asterisk. At the time, it felt harmless. But day after day, those little statements became cement walls in my thinking. They didn't just limit my vocabulary, they limited my identity. So now you know the power to begin again doesn't come from outside circumstances, it comes from within. Starting a new life isn't about waiting for perfect timing or some grand opportunity to appear. It's about taking the first small, deliberate step with clarity, courage, and commitment. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin. Asterisk. Life will test you. The path will challenge you. But remember, discomfort is the birthplace of growth. And every step forward, no matter how small, is proof that you've chosen to lead your life instead of just live it. So here's my challenge to you. Make a decision today. Not next week. Not when it feels easy. Today. Decide who you want to become, what kind of life you want to build, and begin moving toward it with purpose. Speak it. Envision it. Act on it. You have everything you need already inside you. All that's left is your decision to act. The rest, your new habits, new results, new life will follow. Asterisk. Asterisk. Don't wait for a new year or a new month. This is your moment. Begin the new life now. Asterisk. Asterisk.